It is 6 a.m. on the East Coast. It is Friday, February 2nd. I just want to tell you, I'm up to date on just about everything. The rest is easy.
Just about.
Oh, and one more thing to tell you. It's Fox and Friends.
Yes.
All right. So far, you knew everything. Now the new stuff. Fox News alert. Toxicology reports are in for the deaths of 3 Kansas City Chiefs fans found dead in their friend's backyard. Forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Bodden just left him in the green room. Will join us in minutes.
And right now, 5 migrants involved in the attack on NYPD officers could be on their way to California, but they had plenty of time to flip off the cameras before taking off.
And pets really are part of our family, right? A little girl saves her guinea pig from a snake.
What a
She
boss.
picked up the snake. Look at that, swinging it around. She's so brave.
And
She
dogs.
and her dad are going to join us. Fox and Friends starts right now. And remember, mornings are better with friends.
Are we
Thanks for
still doing this?
contributing.
All right, buckle up. A Fox News alert. Several people are dead after a small plane crashes into a mobile home and park in Florida overnight.
Officials say it slammed into one of the mobile homes, exploding it literally into a massive fireball, and it quickly spread to 3 other houses.
Here comes this plane going at a 45-degree angle and just boom. Very surreal, like you don't realize what you were just watching.
Yep. Luckily, firefighters were able to put it out quickly. The FAA says the pilot reported engine failure just before the crash. Still no word on how many people were on board or exactly how many were hurt. We'll have a live report from the scene in about 15 minutes. But first, this.
Yeah, this is another alert. Cocaine, fentanyl, reportedly detected in the toxicology results of those 3 Kansas City Chiefs fans found frozen to death last month, the beginning of January, after that watch party.
So this is what we know. These are only preliminary results, but sources with direct knowledge of the case tell TMZ that other substances may surface once the official results come out. We know that the family members of those fans who died have a copy of the report, but they have not confirmed what it says.
All right, this comes after we learned that Jordan Willis, the host of the party, checked himself into rehab. He is not currently facing any charges, and police insist the deaths are not being investigated as homicides. But should they be? Let's bring in Dr. Michael Bodden. He's right here, pathologist, Fox News contributor. Dr. Bodden, this revelation, we thought about drugs, reasonable people thought it was drugs. What does this tell you? Cocaine and fentanyl.
As Lauren said, we have to wait for the official report to come out, but it appears at this time that there was fentanyl and other drugs present. Fentanyl is used by doctors because it's a powerful painkiller, and one of the side effects is making a person sleepy. And what happened here, I think, could have been that the 4 of them used the drugs together. The one fellow who comes in and sleeps on the couch indoors sleeps it off.
2 days.
For a while, more than 24 hours, right? Whereas the other 3 get sleepy and pass out outside, and because of the weather and because of the snow, their body temperature drops very quickly from 98 degrees to 80 degrees, at which point, less than an hour, the heart can't beat anymore accurately, so they die of a cardiac arrest due to hyperthermia. It is very unusual for 3 people using or 4 people using drugs together to die simultaneously from fentanyl. The effects on people varies a great deal, so it's less likely to be overdoses and more likely to be hypothermia caused by passing out from the fentanyl.
What does that tell you then? If all 4 of them experienced, I mean, he fell asleep on the sofa. Thankfully, he wasn't outside at the time. The other 3 were. What does that tell you about the power, how powerful these drugs are?
We don't know what all the drugs are. Fentanyl is the most powerful of these drugs mentioned, and it varies a great deal. There was something in the paper about somebody having a 30. The fentanyl is measured in micrograms. Very small amount causes a lot of. At 30, some people will die at 30, and other people can go up to 100 or 200 and not die. See, it varies on the individuals. So it'd be extremely unusual for a true overdose to kill them, but they would all get sleepy, and if they pass out in the snow, they die. One of the factors is it's a painless death. They don't have any pain when they pass out, or they don't have any pain from the cold.
So, Doctor, we know we're in the middle of a drug crisis, and if the report is true that they were mixing the cocaine with fentanyl, there was a report and there was a bulletin done by the DA, and they unclassified this. And the concern was people were using cocaine and fentanyl based together because they were using the fentanyl to substitute for the heroin. Why would people think that fentanyl is heroin? What type of effect? Because they sent this to all the medical examiners because people were dropping like flies. What makes them the same?
Well, fentanyl and fentanyl both are laboratory-made chemicals, narcotics, and they both have similar effects, but fentanyl is much stronger than heroin, and heroin is much stronger than morphine, which is the original one. But when they're mixed with cocaine, sometimes addicts will mix a downer. Fentanyl is a downer, makes you go to sleep. Cocaine is an upper, and some drug users think if you mix them together, it makes it safer, and that's not true. They'll mix it together, makes it worse, and most fentanyl deaths combine other drugs with them.
Right. I'm happy to say I'm not an experienced drug user, so this may sound naive. Could it be that someone gets cocaine and people put fentanyl in it, they don't know it?
Oh, absolutely. That's part of the problem. Fentanyl is very cheap. It's very cheap for the drug lords and all, so that they can mix fentanyl with marijuana, they mix fentanyl with cocaine, and that's why, and it's much more powerful than the other drugs. So the four of them may not even known what they were getting. They might have thought they were getting cocaine, and instead it's fentanyl. And that's why, as Lauren said, we have to wait for the official toxicology
report. But you do have a
report.
witness. A guy that lived through it, right?
It sounds like the guy who was asleep on the sofa probably told police, because they said this is 100% not a homicide. People were accusing him, and he said, I didn't do it. I bet he told police, this is the honest truth, this is what we were doing.
Well,
and maybe gave them the drug dealer's name or number, and then police knew what they were dealing with.
Absolutely. That one thing, the police come there, and they got things from the scene. So they may have the packets or whatever the drugs were contained in, and they would have known, and that's why they said right away that it's not a murder. They right away gave the impression it was a drug overdose. And the amounts of the drug are going to be very important into being certain about how the effects were. The initial report says trace of cocaine and fentanyl. Fentanyl is much more likely to cause death than
I always
cocaine.
thought coke had you race. Fentanyl overcomes what coke does?
They do different things, but they don't overcome. They just add to each other. One makes you higher, one makes you lower, but they don't cancel each other out, which some of the drug users think.
You can't even dabble anymore. You can't try it. You can't. It's not worth it. One mistake.
A very little bit of cocaine, of fentanyl can cause death, but a very lot may not. They find fentanyl users driving erratically have 100 micrograms.
Don't do drugs.
Dr. Bodden, thanks so much.
Sad. They have children.
We'll be waiting for
when we get the big test, we'll have Dr. Bodden back.
Right.
Thanks, Doc. All right, so another alert. New York Democrats are on board with deporting migrants who walked free after attacking 2 NYPD officers last weekend.
But there's one problem. After flipping off reporters with that smug look on his face, he left the courthouse right there. Right now, some of them are reportedly on the run.
Gosh. Madeline Rivera joins us now with the latest. Madeline, what can you tell us?
Hey, good morning, Ainsley, Brian, and Lauren. Sources tell Fox News the NYPD is investigating whether some of those migrants used fake names to get tickets and board a bus heading west. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office says it's investigating these allegations. Meantime, a spokesperson for the New York's Office of Court Administration says in a statement, the court is not aware of the defendants' whereabouts, but they are obligated to return to court on their scheduled dates. 6 migrants were arrested and prosecuted after a group of people were caught on camera kicking and punching 2 NYPD officers outside a migrant shelter in Times Square over the weekend. You see it there. Of those 6 suspects, only 1 was held on cash bail. The other 5 were released without cash bail after being arraigned despite felony charges. One of those suspects seen here giving the camera the middle finger as he walked away. The DA's office says its prosecutors didn't seek bail because they needed to do more investigative work to figure out each person's role in the incident. Prosecutors say at this time they're also not bringing charges against a 7th migrant who was arrested this week. A spokesperson says, "We vigorously condemn assaults on police officers and prosecute those responsible. The question here is whether the person arrested was even involved. At this time, there is not sufficient evidence that he is one of the people who committed this terrible act." The NYPD says it is looking for more suspects. Guys, back to you.
It is unbelievable. Now people are suddenly saying this is outrageous when we know they've been committing crimes rampantly all throughout the city. Thanks so much, Madeline. Appreciate it. So the other thing is, so we look at these guys. We find out two sources tell Fox that they picked up bus tickets, changed their names, or got new IDs, which is easy to do in 42nd Street, Manhattan. And you hopped on a bus, you go to California, probably en route to go back south before they get picked up again. But if you're on a bus, it's a slow-moving vehicle. I'm pretty sure we could lasso them.
Ainsley, my favorite statement is from the court, and it's just ridiculous. The court, this is what they said: the court is not aware of the defendant's whereabouts, but they are obligated to return to the court.
They're
under
obligated.
scheduled date.
Yeah, that'll happen. Look at that guy on the right.
What are you guys going to do about it? I mean, they don't even show up for their asylum
He's
claim.
flipping off the court administrator right now.
Maybe he's going to a Laker game.
Right.
Maybe we should check
That's
the
why they're
Lakers.
going- That's why they're going to
Branding for
LA.
the Lakers, by the way, right?
Would you say? Yeah, the
It's
Lakers.
great branding for them. They got a bunch of criminals wearing their jerseys.
Yeah.
I just wonder why they gave them bail to begin with. It seems like these guys, after attacking cops and the criminal records that one of them has, are a risk to society.
Look at this guy laughing. So you're going to cross our border illegally. You're going to beat up our police officers in Times Square. You're going to get out, be released. You see them being released because there's no bail in our city. And now you're probably fleeing our city and you're going to California. They'll give you a shelter. They'll give you beds. They'll give you free tennis shoes, a cell phone probably after they stole the cell phones from the cops. Some of them did. Our governor said, get them all and send them back. You don't touch our police officers. You don't touch anybody. But Tom Homan, the former ICE director, he was saying, I don't believe a word she says. Just look at her actions. New York City, a sanctuary city. She opened the state to illegals. They can get driver's licenses here. They can get jobs, and they can stay in shelters.
And she got rid of qualified immunity, so every officer feels as though they could be sued and lose everything at every moment. That's why we lost 6,000 since she took over. Meanwhile, Eric Adams said, I have signed another series of emergency hotel deals. $137 million to house thousands of illegals. Some are here already and some are on their way. Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Manhattan. And that great governor of ours is saying, I want to put them to work. If that isn't the ultimate definition of a magnet, I don't know what it is.
You want to hire him, Brian?
Yeah, well, he would qualify for a job. They are actually coaching illegal immigrants to do job interviews to get jobs that they shouldn't have.
Look at that.
Keep in mind.
The arrogance. Come into our country illegally, and then you flip everybody off after you've beat up cops. That's how you say thank you?
Well, part of the reason why they can't be deported right now is because of the sanctuary city policies. ICE can't come in.
No,
they can't come in.
No, they can't.
And I've been asking every Democrat that I've had the opportunity to interview this week, do you regret the sanctuary city policy? Do you regret the short-sighted look on this that, oh, it's just about compassion? Do you guys regret what you have done to the country?
You know what also, too, Lawrence? Tom Homan was saying you can't even, New York City has prevented it, signed laws, you can't even, if ICE or Border Patrol wants to get a DMV record from one of these illegal immigrants or their criminal history, they don't allow it.
It's unbelievable.
Right. And the last thing I would say is schools for these are teenagers, right? They're not going to school. Well, they might pretend that they're teenagers and go to school. They are overrunning these working class communities in the schools, and the teachers are being threatened not to complain about it or they lose their jobs.
That can't
the
happen.
kids, and they don't listen, they don't know the language, they're obstinate for the most part. Everyone's got a big heart, but what we should think, there's nothing wrong with thinking about American kids before illegal immigrant kids. Yeah. And no one cares about what's happening with the students in these schools and the teachers. Where are the teachers' unions to go to bat for them there?
So true.
That's why these elections have consequences. These elections are so important, or we could be losing our country. All right, turning now to some headlines for you. Happening today, the remains of 3 U.S. soldiers killed in an Iranian-backed terror attack in Jordan earlier this week will return home to U.S. soil. President Biden will be there with the families of the fallen for the dignified transfer at Dover Air Force Base. We spoke to the parents of Sergeant Kennedy Sanders earlier this week and asked them how they'd like to see the U.S. respond to the attack that took their daughter's life.
We just continue to pray for them. So, you know, whatever is decided, I trust that it'll be a good decision that keeps everyone in the safest position possible.
In the best interest of the United States.
And there is a new report that the Pentagon is planning a series of strikes against Iranian-backed targets in Iraq and Syria. Now to frightening footage of armed robbers attacking and beating a man for his watch. This ugly scene unfolding inside a Los Angeles beauty parlor on Tuesday. The thieves are seen pistol whipping and kicking the victim. The two suspects apparently following the victim before he ran into the beauty salon. One of the suspects getting arrested by LAPD. The following day, the other still remains on the loose. Country superstar Darius Rucker is facing minor drug charges after being arrested in Tennessee yesterday. The singer was charged and was released on a $10,000 bond about an hour after he was taken to jail. Authorities did not identify the controlled substance. His lawyer releasing a statement to Fox News Digital saying, quote, Darius Rucker is fully cooperating with authorities related to misdemeanor charges. GOP presidential candidate Nikki Haley is campaigning in South Carolina today as the state's Republican primary election is only 3 weeks away. The Democratic presidential primary is tomorrow. The party is urging its voters to cast ballots in that race rather than waiting until February 24th for the GOP primary. Meanwhile, according to Fox News, the polling, 51% of Georgia voters want to see former President Trump in the White House, narrowly edging out President Biden, who got 43%. I don't know if it's narrow. Is that narrow? Y'all think? No, I think Trump wins by a lot there. And in Wisconsin, look at this. Trump and Biden, according to the Fox News poll, they are neck and neck. Also, Walgreens announced that they are closing a store near Boston, which Representative Ayanna Pressley says is racist.
When a Walgreens leaves a neighborhood, they disrupt the entire community. These closures are not arbitrary and they are not innocent. They are life-threatening acts of racial and economic discrimination.
The company announced that they are closing multiple stores throughout the nation because of all the rampant theft.
So it's not race?
It's because they're losing money.
Oh, okay.
It's a business.
Oh, no, I understand. Okay, now I get it.
All right, also happening today, y'all watch this, an asteroid. Y'all, it is the size of a skyscraper. It's expected to just pass by the Earth this afternoon.
Let's hope.
Thankfully.
Yeah,
Thankfully.
Or it's going to be a little windy.
NASA says this is close enough to issue an asteroid watch, but it will still be more than 1 million miles away. The asteroid typically flies past Earth every 962 days. This will be the closest it's ever been, though.
It's like this is the same thing I feel about when I drive upstate and I see, caution, fallen rock zone. What can I do about it? All right, like this? It should be a sign like this. Look out for the asteroid. As a nation, as a world, should Earth walk around like this?
It just begs the question, is there wind in space? I mean, they say 1 million miles, but could the wind alter that? Like, and then it comes toward Earth?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong people.
You know?
Right? I think, yeah.
We're journalists, we're not scientists.
Chris, do you know?
There's no wind.
I don't think there's wind up there, right?
What about Chris Chulo? Do you know? He has no idea. Chris is more into history.
Y'all, we got to go to Janice because it's Groundhog's Day. It is that time of year. We're going to find out if there's going to be 6 more weeks of winter or early spring.
So it all comes down to the weather or not. Phil the groundhog sees his shadow.
Yeah, Janice Dean is at Gobbler's Neck in Pennsylvania because we paid her to do this.
Knob. There's no neck. Gobbler's Knob.
All right. Did you have to go to the neck in the woods and make a left or not? Okay, it's just one mistake.
Gobbler's Knob.
It's one mistake I made.
His first mistake of the morning.
Right.
Okay.
The first one.
That should be a Fox News alert.
One.
Gobbler's Neck. No. All right, listen, we are in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania for the 138th Groundhog Day, and it is Gobbler's Knob. We just saw some of the inner circle coming down to greet some of the fans. By the way, we could set a record, 40 to 45,000 people coming to this site in a town of about only 5,000. They make their revenue on this day, Groundhog Day. The prognosticator of all prognostications happens on February 2nd, when Punxsutawney Phil comes out of his stump and he decides whether we're going to get 6 more weeks of or an early spring. Now, right now, it's 40 degrees. That's about 10 degrees above average. And I was looking at their 7-day forecast here in Punxsutawney. Temperatures are going to be in the 50s next week. But I think that Phil is going to predict 6 more weeks of winter because that's usually what he does. His predictions, by the way, are less than a coin toss. but it's all about the translation because he always gets it right. It's just how he talks and whether or not his handlers understand his forecast. Anyway, stay with us all morning long. Phil comes out at 7:35. The festivities continue here in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Woo-hoo!
All right.
So wake up the kids around 7:30, right, Janice? Wake up the kids, because don't we remember this as children watching this with our parents?
LJ is the only one. You look amazing, LJ.
Thank you.
You look good. Now, could you tie it?
It's like dreads. I always like dreads.
All right. All right. I would not know. Yeah.
Thank you, Janice. All right, now to a Fox News alert. A small plane crashes into a Florida neighborhood. A live report there from the scene.
Plus, parents in Massachusetts take legal action as the teacher strike keeps kids out of class for 2 weeks. Those parents join us next.
In Rodent Rescue, we are going to talk to the 12-year-old girl who saved her guinea pig by making a massive snake surrender.
What a boss.
Hey, Kelly. It's because...
Good morning to you. Yeah, investigators still working to determine just how many fatalities, but we are told that there were multiple fatalities as a result of this crash. Still unclear just how many people were on board that small aircraft and how many people were inside the home at the time when the plane crashed into it. But video from the ground shows just a devastating scene here in this mobile home community in Clearwater. A single engine V-35 plane crashing into a home last night and then bursting into flames. We know that that home was completely destroyed. 3 more nearby damaged by the fire. Thankfully, though, we are told by the fire chief here that inside those neighboring homes, those people were able to safely escape. The Clearwater fire chief told us that he was actually surprised there wasn't more damage caused by this plane in this tightly packed community of homes. Neighbors, though, telling us that the crash sounded like an explosion. According to the FAA, the pilot reported engine failure just before going down.
The ARP units, or the aircraft units out of Clearwater St. Pete Airport, also received a note of response regarding a aircraft that had some trouble. During that conversation with their tower lost it off the radar and 3 miles north of the runway, and some of the ARP units responded this way when they saw the fire.
Fire rescue began staging at the Clearwater St. Pete Airport in hopes of an emergency landing, but the plane never made it there. Instead, it crashed about 3 miles north of the runway. The Clearwater fire chief explaining that because they were already staging those specialty fire trucks there that are there to deal with an airplane crash. Of course, you're dealing with a lot of jet fuel. You're dealing with a lot more explosive power when a plane comes down. So those specialty engines were able to reroute themselves to this neighborhood within minutes, and that likely saved lives.
All right, Kelly, thank you so much for that report. All right, we're going to hand it over to Brian. He is on the other side of the studio.
All right, let's talk education. Newton, Massachusetts public schools are closed today for the 11th day in a row. The city school committee and teachers association have yet to agree on a new contract. Our next guests are taking legal action to get their daughter back in school. Joining us now are Newton public school parents, Allison and David Goldberg. Welcome to both of you. Allison, first off, how frustrating has this been?
I mean, it's been immensely frustrating. David works, I work, our kids are at home. They're bored, they're arguing. It's really just getting out of hand at this point. It's been 11 days.
David, is this deja vu all over again? This is the pandemic. Come home.
It's the same thing as it was during COVID. And essentially, what's going on here is, in my opinion, the Newton Teachers Association, in conjunction with the Mass Teachers and national unions, are using our kids as leverage for a political agenda that they want to push across and essentially make these public strikes legal, which are illegal in Massachusetts. They want to make them legal in order to be able to go ahead and embolden them to continue with the strike.
What David's alluding to is the fact that, Allison, you get the union is fined $50,000 a day because you're not supposed to go on strike. Keep negotiating. Find out what you can get. I think teachers dramatically are underpaid in this country, no doubt about it. Find out what it is, but don't make the kids suffer. That's your problem, right?
Exactly. I mean, the negotiations can continue. I am the daughter of a public educator. I'm a licensed social worker. I want the best for our schools. I want the best for our teachers, but there's no reason to use our children as pawns in this game of chess. They should be in school while negotiations continue.
David, what do you say to the teachers union who says we have no choice? They weren't being negotiated with in good faith.
You know, the school committee has worked extremely hard to lessen the gap from where they were, at the beginning of this whole disaster. And, in my opinion, the teachers union is simply not willing to compromise because they simply want to try and change law here. They want to make Newton an example and go to the next city and do it again and make these strikes legal so they're able to go and negotiate better contracts for themselves.
Wouldn't it be great if you had school choice and you could just say, hey, you know what? Well, you guys work it out. We're taking our kids elsewhere.
That would be a wonderful thing. I just think, Newton, everyone thinks Newton's this extremely, wealthy city. There's all walks of life in Newton, folks that utilize the schools and need them for food on a daily basis. And it's unfortunate the Teachers Association is kind of using this as our kids and the city as leverage in order to hold out here.
And Allison, what they want is, normal things. They want more money. They want more money for parent leave and things to that nature. That seems like they've been negotiating on a regular basis. Final thought here, and when do you expect to get this case moving?
There's a hearing today at 3, so hopefully the judge will come down with some higher economic sanctions, although the unions already mentioned that they don't care about the sanctions. But if this was truly about the kids would be in school. So let's get them back to school.
Absolutely. Other parents feel the same way?
Definitely. Other parents feel the same way, but, they're afraid to speak out. They're afraid of what's going to happen to their kids going forward once school opens, what's going to happen when their kids are applying to college. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of it. And people are afraid to speak up.
You're not, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate you coming on. The goal should be get the kids education, and we still don't have a way to get them caught up from all the huge gap they had when they weren't getting traditional school for the last year and a half, for that year and a half. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, coming up straight ahead, migrants involved in the attack on NYPD who flipped off cameras may be on the run. Former El Paso U.S. Marshal Robert Almonte fears they...
Và sau khi các bạn mở ra thì các bạn sẽ có những cái phần nếp gấp như thế này. Đấy. Những cái phần nếp gấp như thế này nha. Tiếp theo thì các bạn sẽ để cái phần giấy thành như thế này cho mình. Đấy. Các bạn sẽ dùng ngón trỏ này ép cái phần này xuống. Đấy. Và các bạn sẽ kéo phần này ra như thế này. Bên này cũng vậy nha. Thì cái phần này nó sẽ bị dư một tí này. Thì ép phần này xuống và đẩy ra. Đấy. Thì nó sẽ tạo ra được một cái hình tam giác như thế này. Và những cái đường này đấy, nó sẽ ở bên hông nó sẽ có hai cái phần giấy như thế này. Tiếp theo thì các bạn sẽ gấp xíu cái phần này lên phía trên cho mình. Đấy, gấp xíu lên như này. Đấy. Các bạn sẽ gấp lên như này cho mình nha. Và các bạn sẽ biết cái phần này lại giúp mình. Biết cái phần này nè. Đấy. Biết lại như này cho mình. Đấy. Như thế này nha các bạn. Tiếp theo thì các bạn sẽ mở cái phần giấy này ra. Đấy. Và các bạn sẽ làm tương tự đối với lại cái phần giấy bên này. Và cũng sẽ gấp xíu lên giúp mình nha. Đấy. Các bạn sẽ nhớ cái phần này lại giúp mình. Đấy. Rồi sau đó các bạn sẽ gấp xuống lại. Đấy. Như thế này nha các bạn. Tiếp theo thì các bạn sẽ gấp cái phần giấy này xíu xuống sao cho cái đường này nè nó sẽ trùng với lại cái nếp gấp ở giữa này. Đấy, các bạn sẽ gấp xuống như này cho mình. Đấy, để các bạn sẽ nhíu cái phần này lại giúp mình nha. Như thế này nha các bạn. Tiếp theo thì cái phần giấy bên này bạn cũng sẽ gấp xé xuống như vậy cho mình. Đấy, các bạn sẽ gấp xé xuống như thế này cho mình nè. Về các bạn sẽ miết cái phần này lại giúp mình nha. Đấy, như thế này. Sau đó thì các bạn sẽ mở cái phần giấy này ra. Đấy, bạn sẽ mở phần giấy này ra lại. Và ở ngay cái phần này nè, các bạn sẽ dùng ngón cái và ngón trỏ này bóp ở ngay cái này, bóp phần giấy này thì nó tạo được cái độ nhọn ở ngay chỗ này nha các bạn. Đấy, các bạn sẽ bóp lại như này cho mình. Đấy, rồi các bạn sẽ gấp xuống, rồi các bạn sẽ gấp xuống phía dưới này. Đấy. Và bên này cũng vậy nha. Thì các bạn sẽ dùng ngón cái và ngón trỏ bóp cái phần này cho nó nhọn ra. Bóp phần này cho nó nhọn ra. Đấy. Rồi các bạn sẽ ép vào trong nè, và đẩy phần giấy đó xuống dưới. Đấy. Thì mình sẽ có được cái phần giấy như thế này nha các bạn. Tiếp theo thì các bạn sẽ lật cái phần giấy này qua đây. Đấy. Rồi các bạn sẽ gấp cái phần giấy này xé xuống như này cho mình. Đấy. Các bạn sẽ gấp xé xuống như này nha. Rồi các bạn sẽ miết cái phần này lại. Miết cái phần này lại. Đấy. Rồi sau đó các bạn sẽ lật qua bên này. Rồi các bạn cũng sẽ gấp tương tự như vậy luôn nha. Bạn sẽ gấp cái phần này xé xuống này. Xem cho cái đường này, nó sẽ trùng với lại cái nếp gấp này. Đây, như này nha các bạn. Tiếp theo thì các bạn sẽ mở cái phần giấy này ra luôn. Mở ra như này cho mình. Đây, các bạn sẽ gấp ra như này cho mình. Sẽ miết lại. Các bạn sẽ gấp cái phần giấy này qua. Đấy, như thế này.